Lil Jeff took the lives of two young boys, confessed to avenging Z-Money by eliminating a rival gang member, and then went live just minutes later, calm, emotionless, and fueled by adrenaline, almost proud of what he had done. He had a streak of violence, and it continued until his own life was taken. What went down? How did he confess? Let's get into it. Admission of murder. Lil Jeff, also known as Bloodhound Little Jeff, was a rapper and gang member from Chicago's East Side who gained notoriety for openly admitting to murders on social media. His confessions were shocking, not only because of their graphic nature, but also because of how brazenly he shared them with the world. One of the most significant moments in Lil Jeff's life was his alleged involvement in the murder of Jaleal Goins, a 19-year-old member of the rival gang Trap City. This killing was directly tied to the death of Jeff's close friend, Z-Money, a fellow member of his gang, Bloodhound. According to Jeff, Trap City members were responsible for Z-Money's death, and Leal's murder was an act of retaliation. The incident occurred on June 25, 2023, in the Little Italy neighborhood of Chicago. Leal had just entered the back seat of a Lyft ride in the 1300 block of West Taylor Street when another car pulled up. A gunman stepped out, approached the Lyft, and opened fire through the back seat window, striking Leal multiple times. Leal was rushed to the hospital, but was pronounced dead shortly after. Following the murder, Lil Jeff and other members of Bloodhound took to social media to openly claim responsibility for the killing. In one interview, Jeff said,
"Go ask my ops that Michael Drake his ass ain't get out that car."
This was a clear reference to Jaleal murder. He also stated that the killing was to get back for Z-Money's death, emphasizing that the loss of his friend had made him see red and pushed him to take violent action. Jeff's admission was not subtle. He and his crew used social media to taunt their rivals, posting videos and comments that left little doubt about their involvement in Leo's murder. This level of self-snitching was unprecedented, even in the world of drill music, where artists often rap about real-life violence. Jeff's brazen behavior drew attention, but it also put a target on his back. Another shocking moment in Lil Jeff's life was his alleged involvement in the January 26, 2024, double murder of Monty aka Montario Williams and Little Rob aka Robert Boston. Monty, a 17-year-old member of the rival. Gang BKN and Little Rob, a 16-year-old, were standing outside their school, Innovations High School, when a group of gunmen pulled up in two cars and opened fire. Both teens were struck multiple times in the chest and were pronounced dead at the hospital. What made this crime particularly chilling was Lil Jeff's response. Instead of staying silent, he took to social media to openly brag about the murders. In a series of posts and videos, Jeff claimed responsibility for the killings, stating that they were retaliation for being robbed by BKN members. He even referenced Monty's nickname, Za, in a song, mocking the teen's death with lyrics like, "I turned Za into smoke." In one video, Jeff bragged about the murders, saying,
"I went black for like a week, and poof.
Where you at?
Gotta go after that one. Poof. I came back. Poof."
He taunted his victims, posting videos of himself flaunting stolen items and mocking those he had allegedly killed. This level of self-snitching was shocking, as it was rare for someone to publicly confess to such a heinous crime. Jeff's admissions were not just hints or implications, they were direct and graphic. Lil Jeff's use of social media was both a tool for building his reputation and a catalyst for his downfall. He frequently went live on Instagram, showing off weapons, dropping his location, and even snorting drugs on camera. Jeff's admissions were not limited to these two incidents. He frequently hinted at having over 10 bodies and claimed to be a top killer in Chicago.
"I'm taking to killing school. Class start next week. You gotta at least have 2 bodies though. For I ain't coming with no. If you ain't got I can't work with no beginners, folks."
He continued saying that
You gotta at least have them 2. I'm gonna give y'all 2 minimum. Or 2, I'm gonna start at 2 minimum, cause y'all know why I'm gonna start at 2 minimum. Now I'm just doing it for a tradition. I'm gonna start at 2 minimum, man. 2, you gotta have a minimum of 2.
These statements, combined with his social media activity, painted a clear picture of a young man who was deeply entrenched in violence and unafraid to flaunt it. Lil Jeff's actions on social media and his admission of murder made him a target. In the streets of Chicago, where gang violence is rampant, having a reputation as a top killer can be both a badge of honor and a death sentence. Jeff's brazen behavior drew the attention of rival gangs, law enforcement, and even his own allies, who may have seen him as a liability. On June 8, 2024, Lil Jeff's life came to a violent end. He was shot in the chest while in the 6,600 block of South Rhodes, an area controlled by his rivals, Trap City. Surveillance footage of the shooting showed Jeff chasing someone into a house, only to be shot by someone inside. He was rushed to the hospital but was pronounced dead at just 21 years old. Following his death, rival gang members took to social media to celebrate his demise. demise, posting diss tracks and mocking his downfall. Meanwhile, those close to Jeff mourned his passing, but the reality was clear that his lifestyle and actions had caught up with him. IG Live after killing 2 young boys. On January 26, 2024, Bloodhound Little Jeff went live on Instagram just 18 minutes after a double murder that left 2 young boys dead. The victims, Montario Williams and Robert Boston, were gunned down outside their school, Innovations High School, in broad daylight. The shooting was brutal and calculated, with witnesses reporting that the gunmen let off dozens of shots before fleeing the scene. What followed was one of the most shocking moments in Chicago's drill scene, Lil Jeff's IG Live, where he openly bragged about the murders and taunted his victims.
With a big ass chop, you think we blow out a million, bleed rope around the corner while I'm in the bushes. My other little bus fight, jump out a tree, shoot at his face and cut off his hands.
The IG Live video, which lasted just under 30 seconds, begins with Lil Jeff sitting in the driver's seat of a car. He's wearing a black jacket and a tactical vest with the slogan "Spraying and Praying," which is often used in gang violence to describe shooting lots of bullets and hoping they hit the target. The vest is a clear sign that Jeff is ready for violence and not hiding it. Some people pointed out that the vest showed he knew exactly what he was doing that night. Jeff's demeanor is calm but intense, with an adrenaline-fueled energy that suggests he's just come from a high-stakes situation. His eyes are wide, and his movements are erratic, as if he's still riding the adrenaline high from the shooting. Jeff's outfit also grabbed attention. In the passenger seat sits T Slick, another member of Jeff's crew. He's wearing a mask that covers most of his face, but his body language suggests he's just as hyped up as Jeff. A third individual sits in the back seat, his face fully exposed. This carelessness has led many to think he might have played a smaller role in the shooting, but being in the car right after the murders is hard to ignore. The video kicks off with Jeff rapping to a drill song blasting in the background. The hard-hitting lyrics and heavy bass create a chaotic vibe. Drill music often talks about real-life violence and gang activity, and Jeff's wide-eyed stares and restless energy make it clear he's still riding the adrenaline rush from the shooting, almost like he's proud of what just happened. Many people said the music made the whole life feel like a scene from a movie, but in reality, it was all too real. Lil Jeff's IG Live gives a raw and unfiltered glimpse into his mindset right after the murders. Jeff also went live sometime later and said,
I went black for like a week, and poof,
Where you at?
gotta go. After that one, poof, I came back, poof.
This line stands out the most because Jeff is basically admitting to the murders. He uses slang to describe how he disappeared for a week before carrying out the hit. The word poof, which means to kill someone, makes the whole thing even more chilling. What makes it worse is how casually he says it, like he's talking about something normal instead of a double homicide. This is basically a confession. The IG Live video sparked a wide range of reactions, from shock and disbelief to dark humor and outright condemnation. Many viewers were left speechless by Jeff's audacity, with one Reddit user commenting, "This Nick Blayton didn't gaff at all, WTF." Jeff's brazenness and lack of regard for the consequences of his actions left many in disbelief. Another common reaction was frustration with the Chicago Police Department, as highlighted by a comment that read, "CPD is either overwhelmed or don't give a f." Jeff's willingness to post a video so soon after a violent crime suggested to many that he had little to no fear of law enforcement, further fueling criticism of the police. Speculation about Jeff's motives also emerged. Some believed that Jeff's actions were driven by a need to protect his reputation, especially after Monty and Little Rob allegedly robbed him of valuable items like watches and jewelry. This act of disrespect reportedly pushed Jeff to retaliate, leading to the fatal confrontation. The absurdity of the situation was also not lost on viewers. Many pointed out how Jeff's immediate posting of a video referencing the murders raised questions about how he wasn't swiftly apprehended by authorities. The streets of Chicago have long been a battleground for cycles of violence, retaliation, and loss. The city was shaken by another senseless act of gun violence that claimed the lives of 2 teenagers, 16-year-old Robert Boston, known as Lil Rob, and 17-year-old Montario Williams, also called Monty. The tragedy unfolded around 12:25 p.m. near the intersection of Wabash Avenue and Washington Street, a bustling area in Chicago's Loop District. The location is just steps away from Innovations High School, a CPS charter school where both victims were students. The area is typically crowded during lunch hour, filled with tourists, commuters, students, and workers. On this fateful day, however, it became the scene of a brutal and calculated attack. According to Chicago Police Central Control Group Deputy Chief John Hine, 6 students were exiting the school when 2 vehicles, a dark-colored sedan and a sport utility vehicle, pulled up nearby. Several masked individuals emerged from the vehicles and opened fire, targeting Lil Rob and Monty. The shooting occurred near an elevator structure at the Washington Wabash Loop L stop, a busy transit hub. Witnesses reported hearing multiple gunshots, with some describing the sound as resembling firecrackers, suggesting the possible use of a modified firearm, such as a Glock, equipped with a switch to enable automatic firing. The victims were struck multiple times, with Lil Rob sustaining gunshot wounds to his chest and Monty being hit in the right hip and chest. Despite immediate efforts by paramedics to save their lives, both teens were pronounced dead at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. A third victim, Berenice Vargas, a bystander, was grazed by a bullet that tore through her jacket sleeve. She described the incident as terrifying, saying, "I was afraid it hit me too by accident." Close call underscores the indiscriminate nature of the violence, which put countless innocent lives at risk. Lil Rob, the younger of the two, was described by those who knew him as a cheerful and smiling teenager. Community activist Andrew Holmes, who met with the families of the victims, shared that Lil Rob had a bright personality and was well liked by his peers. His family was devastated by his loss, struggling to come to terms with the senselessness of his death. Monty, on the other hand, was with aspirations of entering the trades. Unlike many of his peers who aimed for college, Monty had set his sights on becoming a painter, a career that would allow him to work with his hands and build a stable future. His family remembered him as a hard-working and determined young man who was taken too soon. In the immediate aftermath, the scene was chaotic. Witnesses described seeing the two teens lying on the sidewalk, surrounded by friends and bystanders who desperately tried to help. Paramedics performed CPR on both victims, but their injuries were too severe. The area was quickly cordoned off by police, and streets were closed as investigators combed the scene for evidence. Mohammed Ashik, a local shopkeeper who has operated his business in the area for 40 years, described diving for cover as bullets flew. "My head went so heavy, I can't even go," he said, visibly disturbed by the experience. Chicago police launched an intensive investigation into the shooting, treating it as a high-priority case due to its location and the ages of the victims. Authorities believe the shooting was targeted, possibly linked to an ongoing feud or retaliation. Speculation has arisen about potential connections to prior conflicts involving the victims. Monty, in particular, had been mentioned in connection with a recent robbery involving rapper Lil Jeff, known for his involvement in street disputes.
The shit will start happening, and y'all know this by now. I went black for like a week, and poof.
Where you at?
Gotta go after that one. Poof. I came back. Poof. I don't let them though.
In a vlog posted just days before the shooting, Monty was seen engaging in a tense FaceTime call with Lil Jeff, during which he taunted the rapper about stolen jewelry. This interaction has led some to believe that the shooting may have been an act of retaliation. However, police have not confirmed any direct links between the shooting and prior incidents. The shooting has sparked outrage and grief across Chicago, with community leaders, activists, and politicians calling for an end to the cycle of violence. Mayor Brandon Johnson issued a statement expressing his condolences to the families of the victims and the Innovations High School community. Today, outside of Innovations High School, 2 students were tragically shot as classes were starting to dismiss for the weekend. He wrote, "I extend my deepest condolences to their families and the Innovations High School community as they grapple with unimaginable pain and trauma caused by this senseless act of violence." Community activist Andrew Holmes, who has been a vocal advocate for victims of gun violence, expressed his frustration and sorrow over the loss of Lil Rob and Monty. "You have no right to take another person's life like that. This is a brutal way. This is cold-blooded murder. History of violence." Lil Jeff became a well-known name in Chicago's underground rap scene, especially in drill music. His life was filled with violence and gang ties, which shaped who he was and eventually led to his tragic death. Lil Jeff was born and raised in Chicago, a city known for its rich musical history, but also for its struggles with gang violence. Growing up in a challenging environment, he was exposed to the harsh realities of street life from a young age. His family background played a significant role in shaping his experiences. At just 14 years old, Lil Jeff experienced a traumatic event that would leave a lasting impact on him. His home was shot up during a drive-by shooting. Bullets flew through the walls of his house, narrowly missing him and instilling a sense of fear and urgency in his life. Instead of pushing him away from the streets, this incident seemed to harden his resolve and draw him deeper into the world of gangs. His older brother, who was already involved in the streets, introduced Jeff to that world. By the time he was 18, Jeff had jumped off the porch, a term used to describe someone fully committing to gang life. He became a member of the Bloodhounds, a gang affiliated with Drill City, which claimed the area of 79th and Maryland. The Bloodhounds had ongoing beefs with rival gangs like BKN, Trap City, and others, setting the stage for the violence that would dominate Jeff's life. Amid all the chaos in his life, Lil Jeff turned to music as an escape. Rapping became his way to express what he was going through and share his story. His lyrics spoke about the struggles he faced every day, connecting with others who lived the same harsh reality or saw it around them. The turning point in Lil Jeff's life came in September 2014 when he was allegedly involved in what has been described as his murder spree. The first reported victim was Kamal Burton, known as Molly, who was associated with the Hray mob. At this time, Lil Jeff was only 12 years old, but had already begun to navigate the complexities of gang affiliation. As he grew older, the pressures of gang loyalty began to mount. The death of Z Money, a prominent figure on the East Side, catalyzed escalating violence among rival factions. Lil Jeff and another individual known as Q50 were reportedly heavily involved in this cycle of retaliation. After Z Money's death, rumors spread that Q50 had been shot as part of ongoing conflicts between gangs. This event marked the beginning of a violent chain reaction that would engulf many young men in Chicago's neighborhoods. The aftermath of Z Money's death ignited a series of retaliatory acts that further entrenched Lil Jeff in violence. The Bloodhounds sought revenge against those they believed were responsible for Z Money's demise. This cycle of retaliation created an atmosphere where violence became not just expected, but necessary for survival. One major act of retaliation happened on June 25, 2023, when Leal, a member of the rival gang Trap City, was shot and killed while riding in a Lyft. This bold attack shook the community and escalated tensions between the rival gangs. In a move that could be seen as bold or reckless, Lil Jeff went on social media to mock Leal's death. He even referenced the incident in his music, showing little remorse and further fueling tensions between rival gangs. Another important moment that contributed to Lil Jeff's controversial reputation involved an incident with Black Kings Nation, a gang he had previously been affiliated with. According to rumors circulating within the community, members of BKN allegedly betrayed Lil Jeff by setting him up and stealing his expensive watches, which became a significant blow to his status on the streets. Feeling disrespected and enraged by this betrayal, Lil Jeff reportedly sought retribution against BKN. In an act that highlighted his willingness to resort to extreme measures for respect and revenge, he allegedly attacked BKN members, resulting in the deaths of 2 individuals associated with that gang. This incident cemented Lil Jeff's reputation as someone unafraid to use violence to defend himself and restore his honor. The cycle of betrayal and revenge only grew worse, pulling more people into its grip. The tragic end to Lil Jeff's life came on June 8, 2024. Reports indicate that he and other alleged members of the Bloodhounds entered Trap City's territory with intentions that were likely hostile. As tensions escalated into violence, accounts suggest that Lil Jeff was chasing an individual when gunfire erupted from within a nearby residence. An unknown assailant opened fire on him, striking him multiple times. In total, Lil Jeff sustained an astonishing 19 gunshot wounds during this encounter. He ultimately succumbed to his injuries shortly after being shot. The circumstances surrounding his death remain murky. Rumors suggest that the shooter was apprehended but later released without charges due to the incident being classified as mutual combat. Lil Jeff's life illustrates how quickly one can be drawn into cycles of violence fueled by loyalty to gangs and retaliation against perceived slights or betrayals. Despite, or perhaps because of his violent reputation, Lil Jeff managed to carve out a niche for himself within Chicago's rap scene. Lil Jeff's legacy is still a hot topic among fans and critics. Some see him as a tragic figure, a young man trapped in a cycle of violence he couldn't escape. Others view him as a symbol of everything wrong with gang culture, someone who chose violence over peace, leading to his own early death. But to truly understand Lil Jeff's story, you have to look at the bigger picture of gang violence in Chicago. The city has battled crime and gang activity for decades, with neighborhoods often divided by gang lines. These rivalries can turn deadly in an instant. Drill music, which emerged in the early 2010s, became the soundtrack of these streets. Artists used their music to share real stories of survival, loss, and life in the trenches. While some praised the drill for its raw honesty, others blamed it for glorifying violence and fueling the cycle of crime. Lil Jeff was shaped by the streets and found his voice through drill music. But in the end, the life he rapped about took him. This was all from our side. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoy our content, our newest videos are just a click away.